Hi everyone, it's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel and another card making tutorial. Today I'm going to share some Easter shaker cards with ELOW coloring featuring components from the brand new limited edition Simon Says Stamp 2023 Easter card kit. Each year Simon Says Stamp does a limited edition kit for the holiday, and this year's kit is amazing as always. I love the pattern papers and stamp set included in the kit. I'm going to feature mostly kit components, but I did pull in a die set from my stash as well as a few embellishments for the very end. Today's cards are going to focus on some ELOW coloring, and I am going to be using something other than black to stamp the images I'm using for my cards. So instead of a black outline that you're used to seeing for a lot of images, Fawn has several great inks that are wonderful for alcohol ink coloring. And the gray color is called River Rock, and the brown color that I'm using here today is called Crunchy Leaf. And for Easter cards that are focusing on pastels and pastel coloring, I really felt that the brown outline was going to give a little bit softer look, which is what I'm going for. And it's not a no-line coloring like you would get with the Jellyfish no-line coloring ink, which is the third option from Fawn. They also have a black ink. There are lots of black inks out there, as a matter of fact, but if you're looking for a ink that won't run with an alcohol ink marker, then I definitely suggest the Fawn River Rock or Crunchy Leaf if you're looking for something different than a black. I am coloring everything in with ELOW markers. I've talked a little bit about the ELOW markers here lately, the last few months here on my YouTube channel. I have been using them. I've been using them a lot. You can definitely achieve a very similar look or the same kind of look with any alcohol ink marker that you want to use. This is just what I have opted to use today, and I love them. As a matter of fact, I kind of have a trio of alcohol ink markers for ELOW this month in aqua shade. You're going to see a couple of them here in a little bit for the large eggs that these little chicks are on. And so that is super fun. But these are starting to pop up in stores everywhere. I absolutely love them, or I wouldn't be using them. I get that question asked quite a bit when I do share coloring with these markers, and I do very much love that I feel like I don't have to go over and over my coloring, excuse me, as I did before. My Copic markers are pretty old, and I was finding that I was refilling them almost weekly. So I have switched to these markers. I love them. Definitely check out some of my other ELOW marker videos. I am going to link to those down below. The video I did with my friend Lori Craig, who works for the company that sells ELOW, is a great reference if you want to know more about the markers. I am using them like I would any alcohol ink marker. And I am going to list the colors that I used because I did use quite a few colors for 3 images, especially coloring 3 images. I'm not just coloring one, so there are quite a few color combinations. I will list those all down below for easy reference. Now, something that I will say that I am noticing with the ELOWs, and really it's nothing big because I also noticed this when I first started coloring with Copics, and my markers were much juicier, I guess I want to say, is that there is some bleeding if I oversaturate the paper. And that is going to be something you will notice if you oversaturate. I also am using the Express It card to color on. It is going to give you, in my opinion, the best results. It is the suggested paper for coloring with your ELOWs and really for coloring with Copics. I have used Nina for years, but I love the Express It for coloring with the ELOW markers, and I have colored on the Express It with my Copics since I got started with these, and I will say it does make a big difference. Paper makes a difference. It's just like when I use the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers and I am asked, you know, what paper do you use? I always use Bristol Smooth cardstock with those. That is just what gives you the best results. Just like you would use a watercolor cardstock if you're watercoloring or anything like that. Paper does make a difference in the finished result. So you will notice that this egg in particular gave me some trouble. I did use a very dark color to blend. However, I do like it as the shading goes. And I even went back in and added more of that here, and then I'll blend out. You are going to notice that my markers might not look like some others who are using ELOWs if they didn't do their configuration like I did. And that is, I have two colors, one on each end. There's a connector ring and you can choose any combination you want. So if you really like a chisel tip and you want the kind of standard, like you would get with a Copic, where it has one chisel and then one brush, you can do that. I don't ever use the chisel. And I actually felt like it was kind of a waste for me because it's actually two separate markers. I went ahead and just bought the brush tip, and that is what I'm using. So I have like two blender colors together on each marker. It has taken a bit for me to get used to that just because it's not something I'm super, or I wasn't comfortable with, but now that I am used to it, I absolutely love it. This pink egg, this was the one that gave me the trouble, that bled so bad. So in fact, I went and I blended in a purple color, which is going to help disguise the bleeding because I did not want to recolor everything, and it ends up fine. I did use my dark color to add some speckles to the little blue eggs. And I tried to keep it somewhat consistent. You could do them all in different colors if you wanted to, but I kind of like the big eggs, like almost like these like robin's egg blue kind of. Mine are a little more aqua. Those are the colors that I picked for my colors of the month with ELOW, and as a matter of fact, they're my favorite colors. And so that is what I picked there. I really, this is kind of a funny thing maybe. I think yellows are kind of hard to pick with alcohol ink markers. At least they have been for me for years. I love the ELOW yellows. I know that's completely crazy, probably, but I think a good yellow is really important. So these little chicks, I felt like really, I loved the coloring on those. I did a little combination of some purples, and then we are going to pop in like a little peachy pink. Those poor pink eggs, I struggled with them, but I end up really loving how it turns out, so it's all good. So I love a good peachy red, and I think these colors are amazing without being too overwhelmingly red. I picked some lighter shades in that red spectrum so that it really matches more of that pastel feeling that I'm going for with this design. Now I am going to use my brother's Scan and Cut to cut these out. I did not have the dies at the time of filming this video. You can purchase the dies that coordinate. They are an additional purchase in addition to the kit, or you can buy the stamp set and dies individually if you don't need the full kit. So there are lots of options at Simon Says Stamp. Definitely check that out. The only thing I did since I stamped my images with the Crunchy Leaf ink is I took a black pen and drew in some detail. So I drew in eye detail, and I even am going to draw in the leg detail. I was going to leave the legs brown, but I feel like they fade into the design just a little too much, and I think that they're going to look better if I go ahead and take my fine tip black pen and draw those in. I added some little pink cheeks, or little peachy cheeks to my chicks. Maybe a little texture with my darkest yellow color. And then I'm going to move on to the bunny. The bunny and the chicks might be my two favorite things of all of these images that I colored. I used some yellow-orange colors for the bunny, and it really works. I love it. So all of these colors, of course, will be listed down in the description below too, as well as on my blog underneath the photos, so that for easy reference under each individual photo. So whichever image, these 3 images are going to be used on 3 separate cards, and I will put the colors for each underneath each photo. I did a little bit darker for the cheeks on this bunny. Now he's got cute little whiskers, and I feel like those whiskers are definitely going to need to be drawn in with a black pen as well. I will wait until I have colored anything that they overlap, and then I will add in the black whiskers. But the eyes really make his sweet little face pop. I love all the eggs, and something else that I really love is that other than this image, the birds or the chicks with the eggs, those can be more spring themed cards. They do not have to be Easter cards. They of course can be Easter cards, but you're going to see when I finish my designs, I'm going to make a thank you card, a birthday card, and an Easter card. So really just kind of very versatile, very springy. I don't know about you guys, but all things spring right now. I am here for all things spring. I would love to do more cards using the Crunchy Leaf and the River Rock inks as my stamp color. I love it. I kind of had forgotten about it. I did a few back. It's been maybe a year or 2, and I've kind of forgotten about it. I use the jellyfish no line coloring with my zigs a lot. I would like to try the jellyfish no line coloring with the alcohol ink markers as well for a true no line coloring type look. So I might try that. So we're going to add a more standard pastel blue egg, not the aqua teal. And I really love that as well. And then for the basket, I really contemplated what I wanted to do here, and I kept thinking I would do a color, but I have all these eggs and I want those to all be different colors, and I really felt like the basket needs to be a neutral that isn't going to take away, I suppose, from all of the color we're going to see in all the little eggs and the chick and all of that good stuff and the carrots. I did a base color, but I do end up coloring over all of that, so I don't really think that counts a whole lot. I'm going to only give you the other 2 colors that I used for my browns because I liked those better. Sometimes you might pick a color. I generally do try to start light and go a little bit darker, and I just didn't feel like it blended well. That's where I blended it, and I thought, I don't like that. So I'm actually going to end up going with my OR 3.7 and 3.8 for the basket. And I really like this. I still think the bunny pops, but it really makes the chick and the carrots and the eggs really, really pop from this design. I'm just going to draw in some little detail with my darkest color onto the basket handle and the basket itself. And then I did decide to do, I think, each color of egg minus the yellow. The yellow and the aqua egg I do. So I think there's going to be 2 blue, 2 violet, purple, and then a yellow and a pink. I think that's what I ended up doing. I wanted lots and lots of color. Same peachy red color combination for the bow on the basket to make that bow really stand out. Again, it's not a harsh red. It's just a really pretty soft peachy red. And then some very pretty, pardon me, violet colors. Almost a pinky violet for a couple of these eggs. What I'm going to do when I am completely done coloring is I am going to take a white jelly roll pen and add detail to everything. We're going to add some like little lines and dots to our Easter eggs. We're going to add some highlights. We're going to add some little dots to cheeks and things like that. Really just to make these images pop. This is a very coloring heavy video. I should have mentioned this at the beginning. I did speed it up. It was over 2 hours long in filming, and please keep in mind that some things were done off camera as far as assembly of the cards. These cards did take a long time to color. It is something I get asked a lot. I accidentally started with the wrong color for these chicks, by the way. So I think I'm able to redeem it, but I accidentally started with the wrong color for the outline. Anyway, I do get asked a lot, like coloring wise time. I would say that coloring these 3 images took an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 15 to an hour and a half. When I went back and looked at how long it took me film wise, and no one wants to sit here for that long. I don't want to talk for that long, and I've heard you guys don't like listening to the music if I would add music in, so I don't do that. There's not a lot to say truly with the coloring for that length of video, so I do speed it up. At least there isn't for me. Hope you guys understand. I try to leave in as much of the coloring as possible. I think I left all of it in, but I do like to speed it up just to kind of expedite the video. I try to keep consistent with my colors. You're going to notice same purple colors used for these little, they look like pansies to me. Then I used the peachy reds for the bigger flower, and just trying to keep very consistent. The same yellows for the chicks. And then I want to pull in something colorful for the birdhouse. I'm going to do a neutral for the roof, but I want to do something very colorful. And so I went back to the aqua shades. And that's what we'll use for that, which I do think the chicks really pop off of that aqua color, just like they do down in the first image we colored that has all of the Easter eggs. You'll notice with the bunny image, I did draw in the whiskers. And I added some little dots to the cheeks, but I'm going to go over those with a white Jelly Roll pen. I tend to like the white better. Really, really love this. These images are so cute. I don't know what it is, but I love outline Easter images to color. So funny. That's just really kind of random too. The little opening for the birdhouse, let's go in with our 3.8 and make that nice and dark. And I did just stick to the 3.7 and 3.8 for the roof of my birdhouse. I may have to go over it a couple times if I remember correctly to get the shading, because I feel like it's really dark and not blended out very well. So I did end up kind of going back in and fixing that just a bit. And then I am going to pull just a little bit of that super dark color for shading purposes, but I don't want to use too much. It's more kind of the outline. I ended up outlining the birdhouse with that dark color, that dark teal, but then the rest of the birdhouse is going to be pretty light. I didn't want to use the dark color to put stripes in my birdhouse, so I used what in this example is my mid-tone, but I don't think they show up very well, and I'm going to end up adding in some kind of white lines to the birdhouse to give it a little bit more texture. Draw in eyes and legs with my black pen. Here's those lines, but you can see that they're just disappearing. And the roof that I was not happy with my blending, so I'm going to fix that. Go in with my dark color and add detail back in. And beautiful. Oh, and I forgot to color in the hanging rope, so I did that in brown. Here is my white Jelly Roll pen. Some little highlights. Gonna go ahead and decorate my Easter eggs. Not all of them. I felt like doing all of them might be overkill, so I went ahead and just did a few. I am going to add in highlights with my white pen, the lines on the carrots with my white pen, white little dots for cheeks. We're going to go ahead and add some detail to the smaller eggs on this design, and some little highlights just here and there on leaves and flowers. Now for the birdhouse, that probably has the most white highlights. I'm going to do some very loose white lines, not super perfect or anything like that. And then on the roof itself, I'm going to do, it kind of looks like a check mark, but I wanted it to kind of be like shingles almost maybe. And so you're going to see that here where I'm just going to go in and draw all of these in, and I love how it turned out. So I will take those to the Brother Scan and Cut and die cut all of my images. Now also included in the kit are some beautiful pattern papers, and I picked the more subdued, they look like textured or watercolored backgrounds. 2 of them I'm going to trim down to 4 by 5 1/4, and that is based on the domed arch die that I'm going to use with the background, and that is dependent upon the image from this stamp set that we just colored that I'm going to use. So 2 of them 4 by 5 1/4, and that's going to be kind of our ivory khaki colored background and our green background. On the lavender background, I am going to trim my pattern paper to 4 1/4 by 5 1/4 A2 or 5.5 A2 sized, and I'm going to cut a bigger domed arch because we're going to use the chick and eggs image, which is a little bit bigger than the other 2. And you can see here that the patterns I picked are very much the single color, but they still have all that great texture because they look like watercolor without actually having to watercolor anything. I love that. So the backgrounds are going to be very simple. It's going to keep the focus on the beautiful colored images that we just did. Now I'm going to take some of the new Simon Says Stamp acetate from my stash, and we're going to create flat shakers. A lot of times you can do a flat shaker like a flat shaker pocket. These are not going to be a pocket. It's just going to be something flat, so the card is still very easy to send through the mail. You don't have to do anything special or extra postage or anything like that. But the acetate is going to work great. So I am going to show you how to create that after I'm done creating my windows. The domed arch is an awesome alternative to the standard circle or rectangle or square that we all do for our shakers. I love it. I think it's just something a little classier and almost like a little window. I am going to use all of the piece of pattern paper I die cut, so that the domed piece, the not frame part, the frame is going to be on the outside, the other part will be on the inside. I hope that makes sense. I thought about doing a little frame, but I decided not to. And then there is some white cardstock included in the kit. I'm going to cut 2 of them down to 4 by 5 1/4 for the smaller card, and I'm going to cut the other one to 4 1/4 by 5.5 for the A2 sized card. And this is going to be the background. I'm going to use the frame as a guide to know where to adhere my domed arch. So I'm going to lay the frame over the background. And then I'm going to use some adhesive inside of that area. And here are those acetate sheets from Simon Says Stamp. These are the thinner acetate. So there is like thick acetate and then there's thinner acetate. This thinner acetate, in my opinion, is perfect for shakers. Absolutely perfect. It's just going to give you, it's just not going to be super thick. It's easier to die cut. It's easy to cut with your paper trimmer, as you can see I'm doing right here. And 2 of them I'm cutting to 4 by 5 1/4 and 1 4 1/4 by 5.5, just like I've kind of done for the pattern paper and the white cardstock. I picked a shaker mix from my stash. This is just something, I think it's a lot of lavender-ish hearts. I'm going to use the same shaker mix for all 3 cards today. We're going to secure that domed arch to our background. We're going to add some shaker material. And then I am going to secure the acetate to the back of our frame. I probably should have done this before the shaker material, but I didn't. For the next two, maybe I'll do that. And then we're going to attach the acetate, and then we will put more adhesive, and we definitely want to make sure that the adhesive touches for the next step because we don't want any of our shaker sequins or mix escaping. I personally think flat confetti mix is going to be your best bet for a shaker, a flat shaker like this. I would leave your dimensional seed beads and cupped sequins and things like that for a more traditional shaker that has some foam tape dimension. And I did have to take a brief time out. I accidentally adhered this wrong. I only had one sheet of this pattern paper, so I did have to bust out the undo to fix my shaker. So there is my shaker window. So pretty. I thought about using the Happy Easter die that comes in your kit. However, ultimately I opted not to. We'll see that here in a little bit. It would have been fine, and I really love it. I'm going to save that die cut for another card. I have more Easter cards coming, but it just felt like too much. When I add my image to this, you will see it just felt like too much. So I'm going to go ahead and use a little liquid glue to glue down my cute little image right along the bottom of that dome. Plus, I feel like, especially on the purple pattern paper background, the Happy Easter doesn't show up. I did die cut it from white, and I did try to use it that way, but ultimately, I went with my old reliable favorite thing to do when I have an acetate window. If you guys have been here a while, you're going to know what that is. I absolutely love white Stazon stamping on acetate. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mix and match greetings from the stamp set, and I'm going to stamp those right on the window. And I should tell you the name of this stamp set too. It is Sweet Tweets. Sweet Tweets, which is so cute. So I am inking up my sending sentiment with white Stazon and stamping it on the window. Look how good that looks, you guys. Oh, I love it so much. And then I'm actually going to use the Hero Arts scrubber and just basic stamp cleaner, not even Stazon stamp cleaner. I'm going to scrub and clean up my stamp, and I am going to line up the birthday wishes sentiment, and I am going to stamp that with white Stazon. So here is that. Oh, I don't think I left the scrubber in. Maybe I will here in a minute. Anyway, we're going to ink that up, make sure it's nice and covered, and then stamp that right underneath. And it's perfect. Oh, I love it so much. Absolutely beautiful. Very simple, very classic. The focus is on the adorable images, which is what I love, but you have the wow factor of a shaker. You have the ease of mailing, which is a flat shaker, and then we'll just add a few beautiful pastel pearls to match everything here in a bit. So let's put the other cards together. I am going to speed it up just a tad, just to save a little bit of time. I'm using nice strong adhesive. This is the Altenew adhesive that I absolutely love. I also love the red line adhesive from Simon Says Stamp, which is what I used on the previous card. Its border for the frame was a little bit narrower, so I went ahead and used that. We're going to fill our shaker and then place that cover right over. Go ahead and press all the way around the edges. Make sure it's nice and secure. Glue down our adorable image. Now this will be my Easter card. I really feel like the Easter bunny, that's an Easter card. So I tried again. Nope, that's not gonna work. I think it's not gonna work on any of them. So let me get rid of the backing paper. Let's stamp a sentiment on this window as well. We're gonna go back to our Stazon. This time I'm going to stamp Happy Easter. I didn't stamp anything other than that. It's a little bit bigger, bolder. It fills that space beautifully. Oh, I didn't get my shaker very sealed, so let me tap that back inside and make sure and press that side down. and make sure it's in there really good. May have to add a little liquid glue. I don't think I ended up doing that, but if just in case. Oh, look at that. So pretty. I absolutely love it. There's my Hero Art scrubber. Very quick. I will link it down in the description below. Now, for the birdhouse, I really had to work with this one. I thought about having it over at the side. Well, my sentiments don't really fit within the window. I really want my sentiments to be within the window. So I'm going to play around with this a little bit. We're going to see what sentiments from the stamp set are going to work. Ultimately, what I ended up doing was trimming the rope that the birdhouse hangs from. I'm going to center it more, which I do think I end up liking, and we're going to move our sentiments down, and we're going to use Sending So Much Thanks. So very much like the first shaker, these are going to have the script sentiment and then the smaller phrase underneath. Also, I waited. I stamped my window before putting my shaker together. What a novel idea. Sometimes like I said, I was going to use the die for the first one, so I didn't even think about stamping it before I assembled. That looks good. Now I'm going to trim up my birdhouse. I do think I end up having to trim just a tiny bit more. I'm going to tuck the edge underneath the edge of my frame so it looks like it's hanging. Oh, that looks good. I love it. We will assemble this one, and then the final thing I'm going to do is use a few pretty pink posh pearls all like scattered throughout the design. And what I ended up doing, you could use one color or a couple colors. I ended up using 6 different colors and matched them back to the colors of ELOW markers that I used in my card design. So there's going to be pastel greens and teals and yellow and pink and lavender and orange. And we're just going to use one of each on each card so that they all have 6 little pearls. I'm using the embellishment wand to place them. I also have all three cards out at once. I'm using all 3 cards so that I can, place the green on each card. I'm using the little Simon Says stamp triangle tray, and then I can funnel them back into the storage container very easily. Trying to simplify it as much as possible. And to me, I think this is all they need. I think they're perfect. This is an amazing kit. Definitely check it out at the link below. It is limited edition. Thank you so much for joining me today for these 3 flat Easter cards featuring ELOW coloring. The supplies I used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me today for another paper crafting tutorial. I love being able to share with this incredible community of crafters. I want to give a huge shout out and special thank you to my amazing Patreon members. If you're interested in joining Patreon, please click the link in the description underneath the video here on YouTube. Patreon is a private community where you can support more of what I do. There's exclusive content. You'll receive a handmade birthday card from me during your birthday month, monthly lives for my top tier patrons, and more. We would love to have you join our growing community. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, click the like button, and don't forget to click the notification bell so you're always notified when I have a video or go live. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you again next time.